Hello and welcome to Module 2, Lesson 2. You've seen the introduction and there's a lot to learn, and especially about the major lines. So we will start with the lifeline, which is the main line that everybody usually looks at. So we're going to look at where the lifeline might begin, where it might end, some positions of the lifeline, even a missing lifeline, would you believe, and some timing on the lifeline as lesson 2. The lifeline lessons go on quite a bit, but this section is a very important learning. So let's bring you up something. Here we have a normal, perfectly curved lifeline that wraps around the ball of thumb. Not everybody's going to have this kind of lifeline that shows someone who is warm and affectionate. They may be a little bit more reserved because the way that the lifeline tucks in, it shows somebody who loves like a more of a quiet life, being at home, not a greatly adventurous type. So the lifeline is not an indicator of how long a person will live. What it reveals is the quality of a person's life. So we judge how a person manages their world on the condition of it. Is it smooth? Is it well defined without deviations and markings and things like that? And it also indicates a person's physical strength and their health during various periods of life as well. So the physical strength is shown by a deep-seated, strong type line. So moving on, the lifeline that doesn't wrap around the ball of the thumb, if it stretches out and just reaches to the Mount of Moon. Mount of Moon is this area here. So this line that arches widely shows a more adventurous and outgoing person, but it can also show someone who's a bit more restless, that they have many interests and it's hard for them to kind of settle down. They probably love travel and changes of scenery, and they might be attracted to the sea or traveling on the water. The moon area represents the mother, so this person might either have a strong influence from their mother, or that they are maternal, kind of a mothering kind of a personality. So basically the moon is a strong influence in their life. So this particular person, I've written up here Cancer Moon. So what that means is this person has their star sign of whatever the sun is, but their moon is in Cancer, and that Cancer is a very mothering kind of a personality. And it makes sense because this person is a single dad, of 3 children, and his lifeline reaching to the moon just goes to show that moon energy that is very strong in this person. That can happen if there's a fate line from the moon as well. Well, fate line is obviously another video, but the fate line that runs up the middle of the palm normally, if the fate line happens to come from the Mount of Moon, that gives similar energy. The person's moon is strong. So look to their horoscope and find out where the planets are, where the moon is, what kind of a star sign the moon lands in. Right, where was I? In the later years, this lifeline that reaches to the moon, they're likely to want to get away from others. They not interested, like with the lifeline that tucks into the palm, that's more like wanting to stay with the family, wanting to stay home. And the outgoing lifeline to the moon, it shows that somebody who wants to get away from others. They would live separated, they would live by themselves even. The person might not be very close to people, so they will happily live on a farm or something like that. So that is the interesting side of this moon type lifeline. Let's move on. Now we go the opposite, the lifeline that's close to the thumb. And in this hand, it's a perfect example. This person has a fate line right in the middle, a very strong fate line, but their lifeline is very close to the thumb. It's almost cutting into the mount of Venus, this area here. So very close to the thumb shows that lack of energy and that lack of that adventure. Their general enthusiasm for life is not as great as someone with the wide arching line. If this Venus mount is also flat, it shows cold, selfish personality. They definitely enjoy staying home, close to home. Also, if the little finger is short, that's an indicator of someone who loves being at home. If they do travel abroad, it's most likely that they will return to their original place of birth. If the hand is covered in many lines as well, it shows a nervous personality. In this case, this person has a nice full mount of moon. It's nice and puffy looking. So it shows that she is creative and she is mothering type as well. But because of this very close lifeline to the thumb, that shows that energy is mainly on the mothering side, and she's not putting a lot of energy into other things in her life, like travel and other interests like that. Okay, let's move on to the next slide. Now we are talking about where the lifeline begins. If the lifeline is tied to the headline, so the headline being here, and the lifeline starts at the same spot, so they're tied together, and then the lifeline comes around. So this headline that appears to be like a branch from it, it shows a more insecure personality, but they are family orientated. They show a good deal less confidence compared to someone who's got a separated lifeline. These types are often very dependent on their family for support, like especially financially. On a female hand, it might be a very traditional type of marriage for her. She likes to be at home and look after the children while the husband earns the income. So it shows very traditional type person. It would work for the men as well. This kind of line also can show the approximate age that the person becomes independent. So it would happen on a later age. I'll talk about the timing later in this video, timing on the lifeline. but where the lifeline leaves the headline depicts the age when they will leave their parental home and become independent. Now in this hand, I'm mentioning the large amount of moon. Again, we talked about the moon in the other videos, but on this one, it is very puffy looking. And this area, the amount of Pluto down the bottom, that's also very puffy looking. So it shows a very nurturing nature as well. So in summary, the lifeline that's tied to the headline shows restraint, someone who has built-in caution. They're very cautious. They can be timid, sensitive, and most of the time introverted. They prefer to do things in their own quiet time. Okay, next. Now we have the lifeline that's slightly attached to the headline, so not completely tied like in that previous picture. You can see here the headline leaves and the lifeline is attached like by some branch lines, so it's slightly attached to the headline. Shows someone who has more confidence and they're more self-determined nature, and they would have started their independence very early in life. So it would be somebody, like we'll talk about the timing again shortly, but it would be somebody who well before the normal age began to be independent. So normal age might be like 21 is when someone turns an adult. This would be someone who becomes independent like much early, like 15, ages like that. So they might have left school early, they might have started working early, or they might have had responsibilities at home that they became the carer of the family or something like that. So they are realistic, they can calculating, so intelligent but sensible. They are no nonsense type. They not overly foolish, that's what I mean. And they're not tolerant of things that are not their point of view. So it seems like they are opinionated. Okay, next. So here we have the lifeline that is separate from the headline. Headline is here. Lifeline is very detached. Whoops. Very detached from the headline. And that's the opposite of the previous line that we saw that was slightly attached to the headline, which shows that more calculating nature. This is the opposite, where they are more reckless in their nature. So it depicts freedom. They love to do what they want. Depicts adventure and independence at an early age as well. So these people might not be very close to their family, like their mum and the dad. They might have had maybe a separation or whatever situation early in their life that forced them to become independent and not attached to the family. And so the recklessness side of it, they might fail to see danger in situations, so they might make spur-of-the-moment decisions and do something silly. As far as their speaking, they can speak their mind. They're quite confident in saying what's on the mind, so like that's the no filter type personality. They might have become self-sufficient early. or lack secure foundation from their family. So that means that their feelings might be more detached. So we have to look at the heart line for this, but if the heart line is quite straight, in this case it's quite curved, but with a straight heart line, this separated head and lifeline would be someone with very detached feelings, so more cold emotionally. Now, what else? Okay, we're talking about the missing lifeline. Now, you might not ever come across a missing lifeline, and sometimes it's there slightly, like just a faded section, like in this lady's hand. There is actually just a tiny bit of a lifeline. Now, if you think about the lines as energy, that's when you understand what it means to have a line that's hardly visible or missing altogether. So the strongest lines are where most of the energy is coming from. So no lifeline suggests that the person lives a very quiet and solemn life, so probably by themselves. It's mainly seen on very young people who are still dependent on their family, or on the elderly, where the lifeline is actually faded away altogether. And I've only seen it on someone who does live a very quiet life, and all they do is maybe read books, knit, watch TV, things like that. So on this one, there is a large amount of moon, so the energy is coming from the moon. So they are a very nurturing type and a very strong heart line. So the headline's pretty strong as well. So the energy mainly comes from this heart line. So it shows a emotionally connected, nurturing and creative person. So she's very caring as well. The curve of the heart line shows a sentimental and caring personality. So reading the lifeline is not going to give any indicator of health and things like that. So we look to other parts of the hand, such as the heart line, the fate lines, and success lines. So her fate lines don't start till later in life, and her success lines don't start till later in life. So as far as her fate lines as well, they were also not there. We'll talk about the timing next. So the time scale is not exactly easy to do, but reading the timing on the lifeline is the most important part, especially if there's markings on there. So if you know whether an event has passed or is yet to come, we need to do the timing, because some mark on the lifeline might seem like say if there's going to be a change and you want to know, has that change already happened or will it happen in the future? So we need to know the timing. And also I've got this here to 80, but many people live past the age of 80, so the timing doesn't apply towards the later years. Or the line might like wrap right around the thumb. Well, then that would continue or represent the years beyond 80. But most palm readers have the time scale at 80. And here I have a couple of different ways of looking at it. If we look at the middle finger and draw an imaginary line straight down from the middle of the finger until it reaches the lifeline, that is approximately 35 years of age. The line coming, imaginary line, down from between the index finger and the middle finger is approximately 21. From the middle of the finger, it's around about 15. So that's just a way to check the approximate age. And when you look at the line and work out the approximate halfway mark of the line, that is the age of 40. So I will show you another method. Oh, this is the, okay, we'll do this first. Timing if it's broken. If the lifeline is short or if it looks like it's broken, we transfer the gauge across to the fate line or the subsequent lifeline if there's a break in it, and then resume the timing in the same manner. So here we've marked the age of 35 and where the lifeline has broken or transfers over to the fate line, we continue the timing. Even if it's on the fate line, we continue it. So that would be 40, 45, 50, 55, 60, 65, 70, 75, 80. So even though it is a part of the fate line, because a lot of people, the fate line and lifeline run together at a section. We will be showing you that as well later on. So in this case, as we mentioned earlier about where the lifeline is tied to the headline up here, and then when it leaves the headline shows the approximate age of becoming independent, and in this case it would be around the age of 20 based on these measurements. Next, here we have the other simple method, is a quick look at where you think is halfway along the line is 40, and then you divide the other sections by half again. So half of that is 20, half of that past 40 is 60, etc. And then you can halve them again and go 30, 50, 70, things like that. So if you want to fine tune the timing and you want to be a bit more exact, you can use a metric or imperial method. The imperial measures each year along the line as a 1/16 of an inch, and the metric system is 1 millimeter per year. So both of them does give a slightly different result, so it is personal preference because the millimeter is smaller than the 1/16. But here I've marked some lines that come up to 20. So if you wanted to use some sort of a scale and literally mark each millimeter or 1/16 of an inch into there to know exactly what age a mark might be on or something like that. So there you have it. That's the end of the lesson 2 on the lifeline, and we will be continuing the lifeline in lesson 3 and 4 as well. So there's still a lot to learn. I hope you've learnt something from that.